And we will be talking about love. We will be talking about love languages on the lifestyle segment of today's program. Joining us to discuss this, we have
Mrs. Cecilia Agu, a certified relationship and marriage counselor, certified sex coach, and clinical sexologist. Welcome to the weekend show.
Thank you.
Cecilia, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the program.
Same
we
here.
can't wait to learn, tap into your reservoir of knowledge, on this very timely and trendy topic. I know on social media everyone is agog with what's happening on Valentine's for the singles. They're being taunted. Valentine's is coming. Where's your boyfriend? Where's your significant other? So it's hilarious. But we want to dig, down to the substance of relationships, quality relationships. So the topic today is love languages and their impacts on marriages and relationships. When we look at the 5 famous love languages, words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. In this side of the world, in Africa predominantly, what have you found out is the most common love language that we use to send our messages to our loved ones?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's such an honor to be on the show. For me personally, I don't think that there's a predominant love language in this part of the world because it's not healthy to assume, because we haven't carried out any research yet to say, oh, this is based on our research, this is the most predominant love language in Africa or in Nigeria. But I do think that people mix up love languages. A lot of people say, oh, women generalize that women just love to receive gifts, right? And that men just love maybe quality time or physical touch, because a lot of people equate physical touch to sex, which isn't what it is most of the time. So if you say which of them is predominant, I can say this is it. But, based on people just generalizing things, a lot of people think that women just love to receive gifts and that men just like physical touch.
However, we do love to receive gifts. So let's be honest about this. How important is understanding your partner's love language as opposed to how you want to be loved? How important is that in relationships, marriages, and partnerships?
Okay, so first off, love languages isn't just about 2 people in a love relationship. I need us to get that out of the way. If you understand what love languages stand for, especially like you said, the 5 famous love languages, if you understand how people want to be loved, then you will eliminate like most of the problems people have in their relationship, whether it's work relationship, whether it's platonic relationship, even your kids, because they all have their love languages as well. Now, when it comes to 2 people in love, whether it's a marriage relationship or, a long time committed relationship, love language is very important because it means you need to understand, first of all, yourself. A lot of people don't even know what their love language is. Now, we all have a little bit of all of these other love languages, but there is always that one primary love language for a person, right? So I can decide I love to receive gifts as my primary love language, but it doesn't mean I don't love to be told I love you by my husband, if you know what I mean. So for me, it's important that you know who you are first, how you love to be loved, and then find out from your partner how they also want to be loved. Because if you don't know, most of the time we project how we want to be loved to our partners, to our husband, our wives, our boyfriends, our girlfriends, and most of the time it's not true. So personally, I love acts of service, and my husband loves quality time. And if I don't give him that, I continuously project my love language to him. What I'm doing is I'm emptying his tank, his love tank. And let me just create a scenario, paint a scenario. You're driving in your car and your fuel is depleting. You check your meter and you know that this is going down. It's only normal for you to drive into a gas station and refill, right? And the moment you stop doing that for your partner, what happens is just like your car is going to break down on the road somewhere, your partner is going to get burnt out. So it's extremely important that you understand yours, but also understand your partner's love language. Because if you're not speaking their love language, you're bound to have issues. Breakdown in communication, you start losing each other's, love and focus. You start losing your respect. You start losing love. And before you know, both of you are growing apart simply because one person or both of you did not pay attention to your partner's love language. So see it as your vehicle, right? That you have to keep refueling every single time or servicing every single time. That's how important it is. So yeah.
You said something very pertinent. The fact that your love language may not be the same as your partner's love language. So you need to be able to identify the difference between yours and theirs.
Yes.
Then you also talked about the fact that this isn't only restricted to intimate relationships. It's also applicable to your relationship with your friends, your relationship with your children,
Absolutely.
your relationship with your parents. How do they want to be communicated to? What makes them feel loved? So this Valentine's season is not just about intimacy. It's about friendship. It's about, camaraderie. It's about, building that relationship with your children.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was absolutely brilliant. We have a guest on Zoom joining us.
Yes, we have Pastor Laurie Idahosa on. Hello, Pastor Laurie, and welcome to the Weekend Show. Welcome back.
Hi,
actually.
good morning. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's. It's such a pleasure having you on here.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You speak, quite succinctly to women and men across the nation and, across borders actually, on love, on relationships, on the need for self-respect. So joining us in this conversation today to talk about love languages, what are some key lessons that you've learned in your personal relationship over the years that you believe would be a useful tool to young girls, young boys today who are watching in terms of love languages and the way we can apply it in a Christian way and obviously from your Christian faith perspective? Can you hear me?
And it's the truth. We truly need to know how to allow or how someone else should be able to feel our love. I know you mentioned a Christian perspective, but I'll just kind of refer to a secular song for a moment. If you the song by Adele that says to make you feel my love, right? And she's saying, everything is going wrong, but I want to make you feel my love. And I think that's where a lot of us really need to focus, especially now while we're focusing on love during this season of Valentine, is to think about what can I do? What can I say? How can I communicate in a way that makes this person feel loved? And we give off clues all the time. And our love languages change. The love language you may have started your relationship with may not be the one that you continue with or may not be the one that you're with now. So you need to stay in tune to your spouse and make it a priority to express love in a way that they feel loved. You get those little signals. You might buy your significant other a gift and they're just like, thanks. And you're like, wow, but I went out of my way to do that for her and she didn't even really care. But then when you do the dishes, she's like going crazy, like, oh, sweetheart, thank you. You did the dishes for me. You really love me. And you're like, but I spent how much money on that gift and you didn't value it, but a simple washing of plates was enough for you. And I think that's really something that shows love and respect in a relationship, is when you take time to find out how the other person receives love, how they hear love, and you care about them enough to adjust your behavior in a way that acknowledges the fact that you value your bond and you value your relationship.
Laurie, I just want to say I love that song by Adele as well. It is a brilliant song. Now, when we talk about love, especially going back to a Christian or religious perspective, there's a lot about talk on respect, which you've spoken on, but there's also a huge focus on compromise. I've heard somewhere that in love and relationships, people give you a different version of themselves every day, and you need to love the version which they give you every day. And I find that to be quite interesting. But how important is compromise in understanding your partner and their love languages?
Well, I believe that marriage is all about compromise. I believe it's a lot of give and take. It's not all about me, what makes me happy, what satisfies me, what fills my tank, but it's also about what's the other person. When you're focused completely on showing the other person love in the way that they need and they receive love, then you're showing them respect. And you do have to compromise. You do have to do things differently than what you may have done. And I'm not talking about compromising your values, but I'm saying doing things differently. Just, I use the example of acts of service or of giving, of gifts, but let's take it to words of affirmation. Maybe you're not really that encourager kind of person. You're not that kind of person that just naturally says, I love you, or thank you, or you're so wonderful. But you see that that's what your spouse needs. Then it's laying down your own pride, laying down yourself and saying, you know what, they're valuable enough that I'm going to go out of my way to give them those words of affirmation. And it might not feel natural at first. It might feel like you're forcing it, but over time, you'll become more and more accustomed to showing them love in a way that they hear it, in the way that they see it. So yes, it's a lot of compromise in marriage, a lot of compromise in relationship. And again, not compromising your values, but compromising the things that you do to make sure that you're communicating correctly to the person you love.
That's absolutely brilliant, Laurie. Let me bring you back to the studio with Cecilia here. One of the love languages is quality time. In an era where everyone is so busy doing different things, mothers now are no longer, traditionally at home anymore. Fathers are working, mothers are working. That quality time, how do we go about creating that, striking a balance? Before we began the show, Andy and I were talking about work-life balance, the struggle. It's real to create that. So if one of these predominant love languages is quality time, for the people watching, how do they go about creating that to ensure that they're able to spend quality time with their loved ones? As I said earlier, not just their spouses or their significant others, but their children, their family, to have this balanced, lovely relationship.
Okay, so one of the things that I teach is your relationship is important, especially for those who are in a marriage relationship. It's one of the most important things in your life because you're married. And so we were talking about compromise. This is part of it, irrespective of how busy you are. The truth is, if the home front is not sorted out, if somebody is not happy, it's going to affect your productivity even at work. It will affect your productivity with your business, right? So it's important for us to know what really matters and then find time, even if you have to create one day or 1 hour a week, but it is quality time provided for either of you or both of you, right? So one of the things that my husband and I do is we create one day out of a week, every Wednesday, for date night. So that Wednesday is just him and I in the evening when we're done with the kids. We're either out going to see movies. I mean, this was before the pandemic, right? But with the pandemic, we create time at home, make sure the kids are in bed, and we can binge watch on Netflix or something, So you can create time irrespective of how busy you are. The late Ubon King really taught me something. He talked about how him and his wife, their date night was on Fridays. And for every Friday he doesn't make it to date night, there was a consequence. So that was something I learned. And guess what the consequence was? He would pay his wife a certain agreed amount of money. And so he said to me one day, Cecilia, it's easier to take her out. How much can we possibly eat, right? Highest, 20K, 50K, depending on where we go. If we go to one of the most expensive restaurants in Lagos, right? But there's an amount of money. So when he thinks of that money and he thinks of heartache from just giving out that money, he will make that time. So it's about commitment and it's about making sure that you create that time. See, for people whose love language is quality time, when you miss out on any planned events, it hurts. It really hurts. You miss out on their birthdays, it hurts. You miss out on some of these vital days that both of you have agreed to do something, it hurts. So if you know that you really, really care about your marriage and the happiness of your spouse, then find some time. Even if you have little kids, make sure you put them to bed early. There's a trick I normally teach the women in my tribe. Wear them out during the day. Let them play around, bounce around, so that by 7, they're tired. And by the time you send them to bed, they're dozing off and you have time for your spouse. So